Every now and again, I get to a point where I think my home office is completely finished and there's nothing left that could be changed or added. And then I'll scroll past another creator's setup tour and my wallet starts to cry. This is where I spend 90% of my time, so the more and more I can make it feel comfortable and inspiring to be in, the happier I'll be. So here are all the latest changes since I last gave you a tour. As you first walk into my office, you are now greeted with this mysterious black locker, which is what I've been using to store most of my lighting equipment. This includes everything from softboxes and tripods to sandbags, light tubes, and just random bits and bobs. Before this locker, this corner was just a bit too impractical, as I just stored all of my lighting equipment behind a ladder shelf. But as I invested more and more into more lighting equipment, it got to a point where if I just want to grab one thing, everything just toppled over. But as this corner alcove is quite narrow, I wasn't exactly left with a whole lot of options for storage. So when I found this locker, I thought this would give me plenty of vertical space inside for what I need at not too bad of a price. I still don't think it's the perfect solution for what I need, as it still gets very messy and it's just unorganized inside. So if you have a better solution, do let me know. The locker does leave some space on either side, so I can store my C-stand, which unfortunately wouldn't fit inside of the locker, but is still somewhat hidden away behind the alcove wall. And as I use the C-stand quite frequently for top-down shots, it's nice to have quick and easy access to it. On the other side, I've also added a corner floor lamp from Cosy, with most of my lamps being on the other side of the office. This side of the room tends to get quite dark, so this lamp really helps brighten things up and adds a nice bit of warmth to this area. And the last thing is this bed for my cat Winston, which of course he never uses. The one thing that's letting this side of the office down is this big blank wall, as I used to have a massive calendar from Stendig, but after having the same calendar for a couple of years, I just fancied a bit of a change. Part of me is thinking of just making it into a gallery wall with a load of frame prints, or maybe adding some sort of wall hooks so I can store my lighting equipment across the wall. Let me know what you think. Now moving over to the opposite side of the office, on top of my camera gear cabinet, you'll now find a 3D printer, more specifically the Bamboo Lab P1S. The main reason why I went with the P1S was mainly due to my cat Winston, as I was scared that maybe one day he'd get a bit too curious. I've slowly fallen into the 3D printing rabbit hole, and I'm blaming it almost entirely on Scott Ujan's videos, which I'm sure many of you have also binge watched. That said, I will be honest, I haven't used it a ton yet, but every time I do, I'm still amazed at how something physical can just appear out of thin air. There's something incredibly satisfying about it. So far I printed a couple of plant pots, as well as a tiny tree house, but nothing too crazy. So I'll be making it my mission to find more creative ways to use it, whether it's solving little problems around the office or creating props for product shoots. I think it's going to become a really fun tool to have. Also, I'll make sure to leave links to all the products I mentioned in the description. Now the biggest transformation in this office is to this far corner. As you can see from my last home office tour, this used to be basically just a storage zone with a cabinet from IKEA filled with books, old products, and just anything that didn't really have a home and needed to be hidden away. But realistically, this alcove just wasn't being utilised for how big of a space it really is, so I decided to completely scrap the storage cabinet and turn it into my second desk area, so I'll have a dedicated space for filming. After many hours of research, the desk I chose in the end is from Oaky Wood and is their classic oak desk. I knew this would be the perfect option when looking at desks for this area, as on their website is a really simple to use configurator where you're able to change pretty much anything about the desk, from adjusting the specific dimensions to choosing whether or not you want to add grommets for easier cable management. And there's also a live 3D visual of the desk that continuously updates when you make a change, so you can be confident in knowing what your desk will look like when you order it. After measuring my space, I ended up choosing a 120 by 70 centimeter solid oak desk with rounded corners and white brackets to match my main setup. As soon as the desk was delivered and I started to unbox it, you can just instantly tell how high quality of a desk it really is. with how smooth the finish of the oak is and how easy it was to put together, though I very much underestimated how heavy this desk actually was going to be. After being inspired by George Powell, I also decided to attach a set of caster wheels to each of the legs, as this will allow me to move the desk more freely around the office when I do need a bit more space to film, or for when I want to film a talking head like this. On top of the desk are a few more goodies from Oaky Wood, one being a solid oak desk shelf with a single drawer. This is where I like to keep my tools for unboxings and more recently keyboard builds, as well on top to display some things to show off my personality a bit more. And next to the drawer are a set of catch-all trays that have come in really handy for product photography, and again you can just tell how high quality the materials used in these products are. It genuinely did surprise me. To protect the desk a little bit when I am filming, say, unboxings, I've added a cutting mat on top, which not only protects the desk, but I think just adds a bit more visual interest to the space. The lighting has also been updated in this corner too. I've added a small portable lamp from Hay that adds a nice warm glow for when I'm filming, but doesn't take up that much room. As well, I've added a Philips Hue gradient light tube to the underneath of the floating shelf, which casts a really nice even light across the whole area, making it perfect for filming, especially during those late evenings. And being Philips Hue, I'm able to connect it to my phone and adjust the colour as well as the brightness, so it's synced up to the rest of the light in my office. The last two additions to this area of the office is a nice wooden wall hook, so I have a place to hang my camera bag, as previously it would just sit on the floor and trip me over now and again. And above that is a framed disassembled iPod Classic from Grid Studio, which I personally think is one of the nicest looking Apple products ever made. Now the last section of my home office, the main desk setup. The core layout of my setup hasn't really changed much, but there have been a lot of new additions, starting with the chair. This is the Herman Miller Aeron Gaming Edition, which after being slightly skeptical on whether this chair would be worth the money, or if a lot of the reputation is down to hype, I can confidently say that I have no regrets with this chair. I know when you're building your own setup and you have a certain budget, the thought of spending this amount of money on a chair, it just sounds ridiculous, and you'd much rather use that money on, say, a new monitor or a new desk. But I would just highly recommend to everyone watching to find your nearest office chair store and try sitting in some of the higher end chairs like the Aeron, and you'll instantly feel a massive difference. Under the desk, I've added a cabinet from B-Flow called Galena. This is the same company that made my desk, so they pair really nicely in terms of materials and proportions. I mainly use this cabinet to store my everyday items like my sketchbook, SD cards, and other random bits like my glasses. As well, in the larger section, I store a few bigger items like my microphone, just so I can quickly grab it when I need to record a voiceover. The lighting has also changed in this space as well, with a new desk lamp from Audio Copenhagen called the JWDA table lamp with a concrete base, which is arguably my favourite addition to this entire office. I'm a massive fan of opal lighting, and I just love the choice of materials with the contrast of the brass on the grey concrete. Overall, it just adds such a nice warm glow to the setup without being too distracting. Plus, I never get over how satisfying this noise is when you turn the lamp on. As well, I was very fortunate to pick up the EVEDAL floor lamp from IKEA, which seems to be completely sold out everywhere now. It gives off a really soft, diffused light, and I think just elevates the entire look of this setup. So if this lamp does ever come back in stock, don't even think about it, just get it straight away. And it wouldn't be a desk setup update if I wasn't using a new keyboard, and this time around I'm using the Mode 65, which is the first mechanical keyboard I have ever built. I decided to go with an all-white casing to contrast the black accessories I have on my desk, as well as green keycaps and a maple accent to match the wood and plant aesthetic of my setup. I got a lot of great advice on my previous video building this keyboard on how I can make it sound better, and mainly due to how to lube and grease the stabilizers properly, which I think have made a great difference, but let me know what you think. Underneath my keyboard is an Key Slim desk mat. I've used a good amount of desk mats in the past, but this one is definitely my favourite, as I love the dual texture of the leather and the felt, and it just makes the desk feel that little bit more premium. Last but not least, I picked up this Sherlock Holmes figure from Collectible Cities, as I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan, and I thought this was just too cool of a figure not to get. So there are all the latest changes to my home office. I'm not even going to say that I think it's finished now, as knowing me, something will most likely change by the time I make another update. But that's what makes having your own home office like this fun. It grows and changes with you. You learn what works, what doesn't, what looks great but isn't practical, and slowly you build a space that really fits the way you work and live. If you spotted anything in this video that you'd like me to talk more about, or if you have any suggestions on how I could improve this space even more, please let me know. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.